Okay, so far we've talked about finding the sum of a finite arithmetic series. We talked about finding and using the sum of a finite arithmetic series. It's called S sub n because, well, we're finding the sum. Sum starts with S, so does the equation and formula. But there is also an alternative method for writing series other than just using a bunch of plus signs. This alternative method is also known as what's called summation notation. Summation notation uses the Greek letter called sigma. Looks like a little e. And the explicit formula for the related sequence. For instance, you can write a series of 1 plus 4 plus 7 plus 10 plus 13 ... plus 64 as the sum of 3n minus 2, where n equals 1 to 22. The sigma indicates that we are adding. The 3n minus 2 is the explicit formula for this sequence. The number above and below the sigma are called limits of the series, and the number on top of the sigma is the upper limit, hence why it's on top and up above. And the number on the bottom of the sigma is called the lower limit, which is why it's below. These limits are the term numbers of the first and the last term in the series. Alright, so we need all of those parts. We need the first term, which is normally n equals 1. We need what our last term number is, which is going to be what we're going to need to find out. And we're also going to need the explicit formula, basically, if we want to write a summation notation. Alright, so looking at problem 3, we need to write the series in summation notation. So again, what am I adding to get from 7 to 11? 11 to 15. And then 203 to 207. Well, each time I'm just adding 4. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up my summation notation sitting over here. I need to write my explicit formula. Well, my explicit formula is definitely going to involve 4 times n, since I'm just adding over and over and over and over and over again. But then if I plug in a sub 1, I want to get 4 times 1, but then I don't want a sub 1 to be 4, I want a sub 1 to be 7. So 4 plus 3 would get me 7, so I need to add 3 to that formula. Alright. Now I need to know, okay, well, I'm starting with n equals 1, because I've got my first terms. I don't have any dots coming before it or anything like that. Okay, but then I need to figure out what number goes up here. So I know that I've got my little formula from way back when, which is going to be a sub n is equal to my explicit formula, which in this case is 4n plus 3. Alright, a sub n can be any term that I want it to be. So in this case, I'm going to make it my last term, which is 207, is equal to 4n plus 3. I need to figure out what n is. Okay, so subtract 3, you should get 204 is equal to 4n. And then divide by 4, you should get, I believe, 51. Alright, so that's the number that's going to go up here, because that would be my last n that I would plug in order to get that 207. Alright, not so bad. Next piece is just the same, so I'm going to write my summation notation over here. Again, we need 3 parts. Again, I'm going to say, okay, I'm starting with n equals 1 because, well, I don't have anything that comes before this particular term that I can see. I'm going to end up needing to know what number goes up here, so I'm going to end up having to plug in that 268 into my formula that I'm going to find. And, well, that formula that I need to find is that explicit formula that's going to go over here. Alright, so let's start with the explicit formula. That way I can go ahead and plug that in. So what am I doing to get from -5 to 2? Well, I'm adding 7, 2 to 9, adding 7, 9 to 16, adding 7, 261 to 268, still adding 7. Alright, so I know that I'm going to add have a 7 in, because I'm adding 7 over and over and over again, which just turns into multiplication. Okay, and then I am going to say, okay, well, I want a sub 1 to equal 7 times 1, but a sub 1 is -5, and if I plugged in 1, I would just get 7, so what do I need to subtract off of 7 to get -5? Well, I would have to subtract 12. So, subtracting 12. For example, plug in 3. 7 times 3 is 21. Minus 12 gives me that 9, so that should be okay. Alright, now that I've got my explicit formula, I can say, okay, I've got a sub n is equal to 7n minus 12. Well, I know that my last term is a sub something equals 7n minus 12. But that last term I know for sure is that 268, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And I've got equals 7n minus 12. And now I just solve for n to try to figure out what goes up here. So this should give me 280 is equal to 7n. Divide by 7. And I should get n is equal to 40. So that means if I plugged in 40 for n, in both places, so a sub 40 should equal 7n minus 12. I'm hoping a sub 40 equals that 268. And it does. So yeah, the last term that I'm going to plug in is 40. Cool beans. Alright, last one. I've got 500, 490, 480, etc., etc. So what am I adding over and over and over again? Well, technically I am adding -10, -10, and -10. Alright, so again, I'm going to set up my summation notation. I see that I'm still starting with a sub 1. So n is equal to 1 to get my first term. And now I need to find my explicit formula and the number that goes up here. But in order to get that number that goes up there, I need to find my explicit formula first. Alright, so again, I notice that I'm going down by 10 every time. So I know that my explicit formula is going to involve a -10. Alright, and then if I plugged in a sub 1, I should get -10 times 1. But then, a sub 1 equals 500 is equal to -10. What do I need to add -10 to get to 500? Well, I need to add 510. As much of a pain in the butt that is, it's what I need to do. And if you don't believe me, let's try a sub 3. A sub 3 should be 480 is equal to -10 times 3 plus 510. -30 plus 510 should give me 480, so that explicit formula checks out. Alright, so now we got to find out what the heck our last n is by using that explicit formula. So I'm going to set up my explicit formula is equal to that last term. Alright, so I should have -10 plus 510 is equal to 10, so now I just got to solve for n, so subtract that 510 over, you should get -10n is equal to -500. Alright, so then n should be equal to 50. Alright, this video is getting a little long, so I'll see you in my next video.